Nothing, Mama. Just sleeping. In the first place, I ain't kissed nobody, and in the second place, there's nobody left to kiss in the first place. Mama and Daddy, they gave me this trip up north as my wedding present. They didn't come to see me get married. They didn't approve of Scott. He was a Princeton dropout, a Yankee, and a drinker. I loved Scott. We were desperately in love, and being desperately in love, well, that involves a desperate existence. You know, that first year in New York, I rode on top of a taxi cab like this, right down the middle of Fifth Avenue, and I waved as I went by all these people. And then I jumped into this fountain in my evening dress. No problems, just me and Scott and love. To be back on top of that New York taxi. That desperate nostalgia to be young again. Say, have you read my husband's first novel? Well, I didn't think so, but I ask everybody that, the chance they might say yes. Nobody much remembers it, but I do. My fairy tale began with this publication. Francis Scott Fitzgerald and Mrs. Alabama Nobody. But me and Scott, we weren't happy just that once on top of a taxi cab. We were happy 1,000. Actually, I'm kind of glad that he's not around to see me grow old and prosaic. Just look at me, the glamorous Mrs. Scott Fitzgerald. He doesn't have to see me grow old and prosaic. He doesn't have to see those bitter things that have dried up behind my eyes. I've been physically and mentally ravaged by resentments. I can't remember what they are. Oh, Scott. He died about 8 years ago, up in Hollywood during the Jazz Age, so I wasn't with him when he died. And I'm sick of all these tragic silhouettes of Scott and Zelda. People, they want to put their trust in God's will. That's just too damn bad. He came home last night, after a month of being away. He came home drunker than a skunk and punched me in the nose. He banged down the bathroom door and he punched me in the nose. I don't know what I did. I tried to be a good wife, but it's kind of hard when you're left here all alone with nobody to talk to. I keep forgetting where I am. It's not like I don't know where I am. It's like I'm in a hospital somewhere and everybody keeps saying, relax and talk about the past, but how can they expect me to do that? I want to be able to put my hands on something tangible. I want to be able to say, this happened to me. These, they're my memories. I've experienced this, but I don't remember. I feel like I've just been born. That's right, born again. Born without a family, without friends, without a familiar house to surround me in, without a scheme to settle into, or in my case, rebel against. Did you hear something? I hear voices. I used to only hear them once in a while, but now it's like all the time. It's my family and my friends, and they're calling from the drain pipes and out of the walls, and oh, I'd love to help them, but I don't know where they are. I hear those voices. Don't you think I know they're in there? They're in there. They say I'm crazy, and written all over that file room, and I locked the door, and Scott was there, and I called him. Scott, come and get me, darling, please, just come and get me. I won't be crazy. Zelda, for me to come and get you, you cannot be crazy. You cannot be crazy, darling. Oh, Scott, I'm not crazy. Just come and get me. Come on, Scott. Zelda, you have to be okay. You can't be crazy. Oh, Scott, come and get me, please. Please. Scott, come and get me.
As an outdoorsman, you frequently find yourself locked into a week-long stay at a remote hunting camp with a person you barely know. By the end of the week, you know the person very well indeed, and may fervently wish you didn't. This problem can be avoided by putting any new acquaintance through a series of psychological tests to determine his mental and emotional shortcomings, just in case you ever forced to spend a week with him at a remote hunting camp. Character Flaws by Patrick F. McManus. Before committing yourself to a hunt with any new acquaintance, you should first take him on an overnight camping trip, one of the very best of all psychological tests. Then note the following indicators to his qualities as a prospective hunting camp companion. Camp grub. Grub can be an excellent indicator of flawed character. For example, if the fellow cooks up a meal consisting of fried wieners, fried cabbage, fried beans, fried bread, and fried custard, he is obviously all right. Give him 5 bonus points if as a final course of the meal he serves individual bowls of Tums with whipped topping. On the other hand, if the chap attempts to feed you something like boiled beets, he should be regarded with suspicion. Clinical psychologists have universally interpreted the act of serving boiled beets to armed men as a massive psychological disorder. Green hash. Green hash provides another good test for flawed character. Cook up your own special recipe and serve it to the subject. Since you're on a camping trip lasting only a couple of days, you may have to use green food coloring, rather than allowing the green to develop naturally, as it does in a typical hunting camp. Note the reaction to the subject to the green hash. Does he politely gobble it down? Or does he jump back and hit it with a stick? Such nuances of behavior can tell you much about the individual's character. Obviously, no rational person will eat green hash, nor will experienced hunters. Keep in mind, if the subject does eat the green hash, he won't be available for the hunting trip anyway, thus saving you the embarrassment of telling him he can't go. A get-well card is optional. Response to discomfort. The subject's response to discomfort should be carefully noted during the test camping trip. Does he howl and yelp over every dozen mosquito bites, moan all through the night because his sleeping bag is wet, and complain bitterly because the campfire smoke gets into his eyes, and so on? Or does he cheerfully accept the discomforts of camp as a matter of course? As a true outdoorsman knows, anyone who cheerfully accepts the discomforts of camp is absolutely unbearable and should be rejected without question. Sense of humor. Check to see if the individual has a sense of humor. In the middle of the night, seal him in a sleeping bag by placing a few wraps of duct tape over the bag's zipper. Then slosh him with a pail of cold water and yell, "Run for your life! The dam broke!" When presented with the prize for the fastest popping in a sleeping bag, does he smile? If so, it is probably safe to let him out of the sleeping bag. Whether you wish to spend 10 days in a wild or remote area with this individual is up to you. Sense of modesty. The prospective hunting camp companion should have a sense of modesty. Nothing is quite so embarrassing as having a member of the group running around stark naked. For this test, hide the subject's clothes in a typical manner associated with most hunting camps. Then note carefully if he wraps himself in a towel before chasing you with a hatchet. Camp chores. Does the subject willingly jump in and do his share of the camp chores? Generally, these types of people turn out to be excruciating bores, as well as making all the other hunters in the camp feel guilty. Storytelling. Storytelling skills ranks as one of the most important of all qualities in a prospective hunting camp companion. This test consists of asking the subject about one of his scars. Suppose he replies, "You mean this little scar on my thumb? I got that on a broken bottle when I reached into a grocery sack. Why do you ask?" Then, of course, he flunks. Any halfway decent storyteller should be able to get at least 20 hunter loves a story with gory detail, even though they're not going to believe a word of it. Warning! Any hunter who can go for more than 2 hours on a single scar should be considered for rejection. He is too good and will demoralize his companions to the extent that even the guy that got his leg half gnawed off by a panther will hesitate to mention it. Practical jokes. Does the subject enjoy a good practical joke? Or does he sleep with a cocked revolver in one hand and a machete in the other? Such a mannerism can take much of the fun out of practical joking. Try a few mild practical jokes on the subject. By mild, I mean stop short of building a fire in one of his boots, for example. Sewing the rear flap shut on the subject's lawn johns should be avoided. Should your hands slip, it is too difficult to explain to a relatively new acquaintance why you interrupted his sleep by poking him with a needle. Many promising new friendships have ended for lesser cause. That concludes the psychological examination. If the subject passes all these tests, he will make the perfect hunting camp companion. On that basis alone, he must be rejected. Who wants to spend a week in a wild or remote area with some guy who's perfect?
In the village of Eden stood a church, bells that no longer rang out their beautiful message. No one could fix them, so once a year everyone in the valley would gather to offer the best gifts of the harvest. The legend grew that someday someone would come who, by their greatness, would cause the bells to ring out once more their message of goodwill. The Bells of Eden Valley by Josephine Holtfeld. Little Ben Adams had grown up in the village of Eden, and he had heard the stories and legends many, many times. The year he was 10, he vowed in his secret heart to do something about it. He worked hard all year long and saved the pennies he made running errands. He said to his grandfather one day, "Grandfather, can just anybody make the bells ring?" "So they say, son, if they are great and good enough." Ben worked harder and saved more, and as the date of the Bell Festival approached, he carefully counted his little hoard. He had $5 whole. How happy he was! The day of the festival dawned bright and lovely. Ben rose early, and placing his offering in the pocket of his best Sunday suit, he trudged off towards Eden Church. As he neared the village, he met Sam Parkins, his face sad and drawn, a small piece of paper clutched in his work-hardened hand. "Good morning, Mr. Parkins. How's Timmy?" "Timmy's real sick again, Ben. He's worse than he's ever been, and I ain't got enough money to get the medicine the doc says he needs." Ben didn't hesitate. He said, "I'm sorry. I have $1.50 I could let you have." Ben pulled a shiny dollar and a smaller 50-cent piece from deep in his pocket. They lay warm and shiny in his outstretched palm. Tears came to Mr. Parkins' eyes as he took the coin. Then with thanks, he turned toward the pharmacy. Once more, Ben started toward Eden Church's beckoning spire. He could hear someone sobbing softly, and he looked about to see, there, on the curb was a huddled little boy figure. "What's the matter, Jerry?" Jerry rubbed his eyes with a hot, grimy fist and looked up at Ben. He opened his fingers, and on his palm lay 2 pennies.